Hello everyone, you alright? Well, it's another gorgeous evening after the scare, the weather scare at the weekend. Actually, I have no issues with the rain at all. We love the sun, don't love the rain, but don't mind a bit of rain.
We got a little bit soggy, it's safe to say, isn't it?
We did. We had 3 bell tent job takedowns on Sunday, all scattered across Hampshire. And everything was sopping wet, so we've spent 2 days drying everything. But to be honest, small price to pay this summer, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. And to be honest, judging by what kind of weather they had in Dorset for Camp Festival, and they had tents blowing away and everything, and people abandoning shit.
Did anyone see the video on Facebook of, I think it was actually in Europe, but it came mainland Europe. God, I hate doing that. Mainland, like on the continent, whatever we're meant to say. And in another country in Europe, and there were lots of like the folding pop-up tents and gazebos basically going up round in a tornado or a cyclone or something like that.
But so, it was good to see that all of our tents stood the test of time and they were upright and there was nothing blowing away.
Nothing actually, wet inside, nothing blown away, nothing fallen over. We had one peg come out.
When we were taking down the bell tent at the second job,
yes.
He was there with his little pup tent, bless him, and his wife or girlfriend was still in it, and he started like unpicking the fly sheet before she was even out of it, and she nearly just took off, and it was the funniest thing I'd seen all weekend. But
yes, I owe the world an apology. Normally, I do an invite to outside Ask an Expert on Monday night, and I do a reminder about 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock on a Wednesday night. I didn't do that this week. It's a long story why, but I apologise to all of you because we like to get a few people on. I've just seen Natasha. I think it's Natasha pop on.
Hi, Natasha.
Hi, Natasha. The only reason I think it's you because it says Natasha liked the video and then it says 1 viewer. So I'm presuming it's you, Natasha, but I don't actually know.
Super skills.
Yes. So here we are. Anyway, L2. There we go. So perhaps I still apologise for not doing the normal reminders. So it's Ask an Expert live number 29.
Who would have thought it?
Who would have thought? Yay, it was Natasha.
Yay.
Boom. My super skills work. What was I going to say? A little bit of follow on from last week, plus some other stuff. Emily's got lots she wants to talk about tonight. So, yes. What was I going to say? The only thing I was going to say was, and I haven't shared it into the group yet, and I just realised I haven't done that, so I will do that after this. Hannah has put a blog post up basically talking about what we talked about last week. The timeline, planning up to a wedding. I'm going to share it. I'll share it into the group, or just go onto the website and have a look at it. Outsidebride.co.uk, and it will be under the recent posts. But basically, summarising and talking about what we said last week about scheduling and planning up to your wedding, and some advice on working with suppliers. Now, clearly, it can't be a one size fits all for suppliers, and not one size fits all for weddings. But as a starter for 10,
just to get your brain ticking over at things that you may think you can leave to last minute. Suppliers might have a whole different conversation about that, about what they need in advance. It might be 3 months, it might be 2 months, it might be 2 years.
And it really does depend, but it's just some suggestions, isn't it, based on, for argument's sake, it references bell tent companies, obviously, and, sort of says a year to 18 months. And absolutely, that's perfect. But, we can accommodate the odd last minute request, but we have limited stock. And there are limited weekends throughout the summer, and limited bodies to do it all. So there are limitations. So really, you imagine that the timeline is coming from the limitations of the supplier. So a venue can. Some venues can do 1 wedding per weekend, or 1 per day, basically, can't they? They do 1 per day, unless it's a big hotel. So that's why you book them early. Yeah. Whereas a dress shop, for argument's sake, and now I appreciate dress shops are probably done quite soon, because
you need
that's that's the bit you've been planning since you were 12 years old, ladies. I know this, and that's the bit that perhaps there is a little bit more give and take time-wise, but still need plenty of time for fitting, choosing, drinking champagne and what prosecco.
I didn't get champagne at my fitting. I felt kind of robbed.
I'd feel robbed if I paid as much as you paid for a wedding dress and didn't get a glass of champagne. So yes.
Shameless Baylily Bell Tents plug, because, well, what's the point if we haven't got an audience like you guys? We today got featured on another blog, and that's okay to talk about other blogs, even though our blog is obviously ace.
I think it's absolutely fine to discuss
on green
blogs.
wedding shoes today, and I'm really, really happy. So please do, if you do like looking at blogs and stuff, do dig it out today. We got involved. I think
I'll share it into the Outside Bride.
Ago,
I'll put it in the Outside Bride.
You guys saw me on a Facebook Live on an Ask Me an Expert. I was filming from the set, actually.
Oh, we did a split screen, didn't we?
Did
and it all went wrong.
A Wes Anderson inspired collaborative style shoot, and it was a little bit of Moonrise Kingdom and a little bit of Grand Budapest Hotel, but it was really quirky and it was really cool. And there was our bell tents there, and also
where was it? Avington Barn.
Avington Barn and Winchester. We had we have a lot of boho Persian rugs. We had lots of them dotted around. It was really cool, and I'm really chuffed that we got, because it's an American blog.
Yeah.
It's a bit
And barns are our grey area on outdoor weddings. Basically, week in, week out, they're part of outdoor weddings, then they're not part of outdoor weddings. But I think barns are in. I think it depends on the barn. We decide. It depends on the style of barn. So
open-sided barns.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, saying that Abington Barns isn't open-sided,
but it had outdoor space.
But it does have outdoor space, and we were there. So happy days.
Do check it out. It's really an awesome little read.
We do have, while you're erring, we did go over 500 people in the Outside Bride Facebook.
We did.
And we try not to do stats actually, but
it's a
this
little
one,
growing community.
Yeah.
Of over 500 of you. So thank you so
you
much
to
for
all
sticking
of you.
around with us, because I know that we do talk a lot, and but I love the fact that you all do start to interact with each other. You all ask questions, and you all are all lovely, lovely people. So thank you for sticking around with us. And yeah, I'm chuffed nuts that we're 500.
Yeah, very cool.
So today, what have I done today? I have just actually got home from a site visit with one of our lovely brides. Alex is also in this group, who's getting married in September. I am event managing her day for her, and it was just a last minute going through the running order, going through tasks that I'm going to need to do on the day, and just basically looking at the site on a glorious sunny evening like it is today, just to make sure we're all happy with where things are going to be laid out on the day, what the flow of the day is going to be, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, actually, as it ties in quite nicely with what we were going to talk about tonight, I thought I'd bring that up, because a few little things popped up actually that Alex hadn't thought about, and you might want us to start integrating that into. Hello, is that Laura Bond?
Laura, I should totally have got you to event manage mine.
Well,
yes, Laura.
Never mind.
There's nothing polite.
We have imparted all of our knowledge onto you in this group anyway, so you'll be fine.
We hope this helps. I mean, we come on every Wednesday, don't we? And we spout rubbish. Well, rubbish in the generic sense, for like 20 to 30 minutes. Oh, I didn't know you did that. Emily, we can do anything. Well, obviously, we take that as feedback for our marketing, I guess.
Yeah, we're a bit rubbish.
Taken on board. We're a bit rubbish on that.
We do a bit of everything. We do a little bit of event management. We've got event management backgrounds. Our old jobs before the world of this kind of situation was all in event management and corporate event management and all that kind of stuff. So it's what we've done in the past.
I did. For anyone who cares, I worked for a company called Funny Bone, who had the contract for Bournemouth Town Centre events. So we did all Bournemouth, and then we did the Pool fireworks. If anyone knows Dorset, Bournemouth and Pool. So done all that rubbish. So,
yeah, and I used to work on large-scale public events for the Forestry Commission and things like that. So
it does help, Laura. Yeah. Oh, is that us marketing properly or doing a run through? Probably both.
Probably a bit of both, maybe.
Probably a bit of both.
But anyway, we met up with Alex today, and a few things popped out. And this week's session, I did promise you last week that we would touch upon timelines of your day, so to speak, what you're planning on doing, what kind of blocks of time you should be allocating to things. We did pop a poll in this group throughout the week to ask just roughly what time of day you guys are getting married. It's going to vary depending on what time of day, obviously, 'cause some of you might be getting married nice and early, some of you in the evening, but we've taken a straw poll and we're going along the 1:30 ceremony time
oh,
of day.
That's good. I'm glad, because in my head I thought for like 3-4 was average, so I'm glad it's closer to midday.
There were I think 10 responses to that, and the rest were dotted along.
Yeah, I'm good. Why would you not make a day of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you are getting married later in the day, just adjust your timings accordingly. And for those of you I do know in this group who are planning their days that are later on in the day, you're not having traditional sit-down meals and speeches and nothing like you would in a traditional wedding. So it doesn't really matter as much because you are making the day what you want it to be. So you will adapt your timings.
Nothing's wrong in this world, is
Absolutely
it?
Nothing's wrong
That's the
at all.
excitement of weddings. Nothing's wrong.
So things to think about. So today we went to Alex's site, which was beautiful, and I'm not going to divulge all the information about her wedding because that's hers to talk about when after her event is, because it's not happened yet. But things like from the ceremony to the reception timings. If you are getting married all in one place, that's not so much of an issue. But if you are getting married, maybe having more of a convention, like maybe having a church wedding or a registry office wedding, and you are having people coming from site A to site B, thinking about your timings for that. So Alex is getting married at 1ish, and they hope that will be finished by 2, photos at 2 outside the church, and then back to the reception for 2:30. It's only down the road. Think about how many people you've got, how many vehicles you've got. Are they going to be parking at the ceremony and then having to drive a second place? And if they are doing that, can they park close to that first venue, or are they going to have to traipse through half of the town to go and get to their car park, the multi-storey car park down the road? Because that will definitely, you have to adjust your timing slightly to think about how people are getting from A to B. If you are organising transport yourself, maybe you're organising a double-decker bus or minibuses or taxis, that kind of stuff, you have a little bit more control of how people get there and when they get there and what time they get there, because you have that kind of, be here at this time. When it's a free-for-all, when people can get from A to B by themselves in their own cars, account for people getting lost, account for people
not knowing where to park,
not finding their car, can't find their car keys, all of that kind of stuff, and give more than 15 minutes from getting from the ceremony to the main reception. And with that, that's okay, but make sure that if you're having a drinks reception, that is a nice free-flowing, more than an hour and a half or so, to give people that time to adjust to their situation, getting from parked car into the reception area and that kind of stuff. With that in mind as well, think about, and we talk about the layout of your site all the time, every week we talk about it. When you think about your site and how you're putting things down on the ground, where you've got your marquee, your teepee, your dome, your stretch tent, whatever you've got going on, where your car's being parked. And wherever your cars are being parked, also think about the flow from how they're getting the car park to the reception. Are they going to have to drive through past the marquee? Are they going to park separately too? When they get there, are they going to be getting out their cars and walking which direction? Do you want people going like splattergun approach, going anywhere they want, or do you want them to flow through a certain way? We were at a venue on Sunday. We did a little Facebook Live. Was it on our Instagram or live? I can't remember.
We definitely did.
We did a little live.
I think we put it in this group, actually. Yeah. I'm pretty confident.
It was really cool. It was at a vineyard, and the cars were parked on a field, and the reception tent was in the middle. It
is particularly unique, isn't it? It is, but fab, absolutely.
The reception tent was in the middle of the vines, but the vines were a big circle, but it was a maze. And part of their journey from getting the guests from the cars to the journey, I know I said it out loud, I'm sorry, but was to funnel them from the cars across the field, take them round the maze as they went round, to then end up in the middle to get their welcome drink, to then start their party. I mean, there was obviously easy exit points to get. It wasn't a very difficult maze or anything like that, but they had a real vision of how they wanted people to get from A to B, because they didn't want people just spreading across the field. If you've got particular things on the ground that you don't want people to trample over, or you've got separate suppliers coming that might want to set up a bit later, all that kind of stuff, think about where things are positioned. And if you don't want your guests walking over that area, I strongly suggest getting some shepherd's crooks or some post and rail and some bunting or some ribbon, or some, if you really want to, like mark tape, tape. Mark out areas that you don't want people to go to. You have to really funnel your guests to get from A to B the way you want them to go. So if there's a particular path you want them to go down, it may be obvious to you that that's where they need to walk. Dear old
trust us, it's not
Mabel,
obvious to anyone else.
Auntie Mabel was not going to get where to go, and they're going to get lost. So if it's a woodland site,
and they're going to walk straight in to look for their table to put their coat and bag on it.
And we say that as well with anything that's marquees and tents and all that kind of stuff. If you don't want people at your tables at that particular point in time, make sure that is definitely stressed to whoever's in charge on the day, whoever's running the day, any ushers, any bridesmaids. Say, look, we want this separated. We do not want people at their tables. And again, might be that you get a little bit of ribbon or a little bit of post and rope, and you separate that area from
Or reveal curtains.
Reveal curtains.
I need to just interject very quickly. Yeah. Yvonne Beck, and Charlotte Brooke both said hello. Scrolling back now, we might have lost this a little bit. Laura says when we were talking about they can be unique and different, Laura says hers has turned into a 2-day event.
Wow,
love that.
Nice.
Make sure you've got enough fuel for the generator if it's outdoors. Yes. Emily says I hope that's what mine turns into. I then posted a link. Laura says, Emily, you need to borrow my party hard dad. That's probably 5 minutes ago and I can't remember what you said. But yeah, send him down. And then Hannah and Ian have come on board. Hannah, you're part of the team. And hi, Hannah and Ian. I wanted to make sure we covered all that whilst we had a little break.
So, drinks reception time is a funny old time. And a lot of the questions we get in this group as well are people going, what do we do to entertain them in this hour and a half, 2 hour section of the day that they need to be doing stuff? And we've said many times, don't worry about it so much, because things will happen, conversations will happen, drinks will happen, there might be canapes, catch-ups, there might be lawn games, all that kind of stuff, and guests can entertain themselves. Think about for you as well, and Alex is another example of this today. She doesn't really like the idea of having stage photographs. It's completely up to you whether you have stage photographs, but mums and dads and grandparents always like the odd stage photograph.
So speaking from experience, i.e. we've been married, and speaking from experience, i.e. we've spoken to lots of couples who are married and been at their weddings, and I'm sure the celebrants in the group will actually agree as well, because they're very close to that sort of world. You need a few stage photos. You're going to hate it, but you need a few, because that's what you look back in 30 years time and you go, oh look, there's Aunt Vera, you know, that's what your kids are going to look at, and they're going to go, talk me through the family. You need, unfortunately, keep it small and short, have a very short list.
Any good photographer in this day and age, especially because most photographers are getting more of this reportage style of photography.
Emily, we'll come back to that question. That's a big one.
Okay, anyone will have that kind of style anyway, but any good photographer will be snap, go, and get some good shots out of that. But I would say make sure that any early on photos you want you and the groom or groom and bride, whoever it is, having get that done in the drinks reception before, like if you're going from the ceremony to the reception. Drive off and do something elsewhere. You know, go and have them with the photographer. Spend half an hour whilst everyone else is milling around working out how to get from A to B and all of that. Go and have some photographs. Get it over and done with. Well, not over and done with. Yeah, enjoy that moment.
Enjoy that moment.
Enjoy that moment, and then come back to the drinks reception, because actually that's not a massive chunk of time really by the time everyone's kind of settled down and worked out what they're doing, and especially for you, because as soon as you get to the reception, you're going to be bombarded by a complete sensory overload of people wanting to say congratulations, and people wanting to hand you a drink, and people saying open this card, it's really funny, and everything else, and you're going to go, oh my god, I've not seen you for 10 years, and it's just going to blow your mind. So give yourself a photo opportunity straight after the ceremony to go off with you and your partner, have some photos, let everyone else worry about what they're doing, and then come back to the drinks reception. Things like, if you are doing speeches, again, this is quite a lot of unconventional brides in this group, so you may or may not be doing speeches. Absolutely fine if you don't. If you are doing speech and you're going down that line, greatest word in the world, it's not going to take half an hour. It's not, is it?
No. One speech will be half an hour if you're lucky.
Even if you have prepped every man and his dog beforehand to say you have a 5-minute window, say a few words, congratulations, toast, I guarantee you, and you've all been to weddings, that never happens, I guarantee you are going to be more than half an hour doing speeches.
Yeah. I was an extreme, but when I was best man for one of my friends, mine was 23 minutes. Don't judge me on that. Luckily, it was all right, if I don't mind saying so myself.
Some people just like the sound of their own voices.
Hello. But yeah, mine was 23 minutes, so just bear that in mind. But that was long.
Think about. So there are things to think about when you do those speeches. So some people like to do it before the dinner. Some people like to do it during the dinner. Some people like to do it after the dinner.
Some people like it before people get drunk, don't they?
Some people have dads and best men who have absolute anxiety, like the fear of speaking in a public place absolutely puts the fear of God on them, and they don't want to do it. So by doing it first, they can get it over and done with, then pick up a glass, have a drink, relax, and not have to spend their entire meal going, oh my god, this is coming up. So some people do it at the beginning, absolutely fine. If you're doing it at the end, I would say if you're doing it at the end and things are starting to
end of the meal,
yeah. Again, from 1 o'clock through to 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it is undoubtedly going to overrun at some point. So just go with the fact that it's going to overrun. It's not going to be like clockwork. So if you are running late at that point and the speeches are coming next, think about if you're having evening guests arrive, what do you want to do with those evening guests? And again, it might be a little fact that you are not having evening guests at all. It's all one day and everyone's in one pool of people. But if you are having evening guests and you're just about to start the speeches, what are you going to do with that group of people outside? Are you going to say, come in? Are you going to put some chairs out for them to sit down? Are they involved with that? Do you want them penned outside or on the lawn? Are they having welcome drinks? Think about the next phase. I always think a little bit, what's it going to run into? So the next phase is evening time. So where are your guests going? Are they going to have access to a bar while you're talking? Yeah. Are you going to leave a tray of welcome drinks out so they can have an arrival drink as they come in?
I like that. I think that's a good crossover. If you're going to run late, you want the speeches to run into the evening guests arriving. That's what you want. If that's where there's a crossover, that's where you want it.
Zoe and Joe's wedding at the weekend, the first job we did.
Yes.
In Winchester, in Dummer.
Oh yes.
They had that, and it was pouring down with rain outside because the greatest weather in the world. It is England and it rains.
The one weekend this summer.
I know,
the one weekend.
But if you've got an outside wedding, is it really fair if you've got a covered space to be leaving your evening guests to be poured on because unfortunately Dad hasn't done a toast or Mum hasn't done a toast?
Yeah, well, evening guests don't affect the speeches, the cake cutting or the first dance. They don't affect it, but they do affect people sitting down for dinner. They do affect other things.
There is no cost associated.
Yeah, exactly. Well, ultimately, that's what it boils down to. It's a cost thing, isn't it? So
totally get them on board and think about that in your timings, knowing that you will overrun unless you are completely anal about timings. You will overrun, so accept it.
Which you shouldn't be. No. Be flexible, a little bit flexible.
Then next, again, this is completely up to you what you're doing and what's in your day. You might have a traditional cake cutting. You might have a first dance. Most people do have a first dance. I would say probably bundle those two things together. Because if people have finished their meal and they're sat down at a table, and then you've said, "Be free, go in and mingle, go to the toilet, or freshen up or whatever." You want to get all those people back for that event, and then if you send them off again to then 10 minutes later go, and it's first dance, you're not going to get everyone back. Yeah. So bundle the two together, start with a cake cut or start with the first dance, and then do the two simultaneously, and then the evening can start.
Then just smash it out. Yes.
Things in the evening you need to consider are band arriving, or if you've got any live entertainment arriving. What time are they arriving? What access do they need?
Who's showing them where to go?
Who's showing them where to go? Is there access to the place where they're playing without going through the main marquee, or I say marquee tube or whatever, or is there a side entrance they can go to? Can you unzip a side so they can just sneak in? Because again, if dads or mums are doing a speech and they are focused on that, you do not want a drummer and a guitar and everything coming through the main part of the marquee. So work out, is there an access point that they can get to without interrupting that part of the evening, of the day?
Sorry, you interjected. This is something you should speak to your, let's say, tent provider. They'll be able to kind of talk from experience, and it doesn't need a long, lengthy conversation. No. But if you know your band are coming in at X o'clock, and you go, what do you normally do? They might go, well, the band would come in through the catering because that's where we've placed that area, or whatever. Yeah. So it's always worth having these conversations with some of your suppliers.
Bands are not going to come in at 7 and start playing at 7. They're going to need to set up. They're going to need to do a sound check if they're doing live music like that, and they'll probably need to come in from about 5:30, depending on what the band is and how many pieces it is and what they need to tune in and all that kind of stuff. So do consider your entertainment coming in and any evening suppliers coming in. What's going to be appropriate for them, what time's appropriate.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.
See you later, Laura. All that kind of stuff. Consider that in your timings. Then on the latter end of the evening, a lot of you have put up ideas of things like marshmallow stations and campfire areas and midnight snack areas and sparklers and all of the fun stuff that happens in the evening. I would say again, make sure that that's planned in advance when roughly you want to do that. Set up well in advance so that if it doesn't, if you are overrunning, you don't have to worry about drunken people trying to put out tables and signage.
Yeah.
And
or who's turning it on if it's a chocolate fountain.
Fairy lights switching on. I think Sylvia asked that the other day. This time of year.
Well, yeah.
What time is it now?
So it's 25 past 8 and sunset's about 9. Yeah. So we said lights should be switched on about about an hour before sunset, basically hour and a half before sunset, because you want them on in this light actually, because they will look fab. So.
Yeah, so lighting is an important one to designate a job to and give that person that responsibility about now. Sparklers. Alex was talking about sparklers today. What time of evening you're doing it? Because again,
I'll try to gurn out a yawn.
Depending on what the sun's doing and what time of year it is, when's it going to be dark? If you want that magical sparkler arch type thing that we failed miserably at doing.
Yes.
And we had a very responsible friend of ours. She's really responsible actually. She's an event manager as well, and you would have thought if anyone had it.
Yeah, but they were all drunk, so
Hannah
no one's responsible.
Hannah took the
Not
bunch
our
of
Hannah, another Hannah, who's
Hannah
also
took
our
a
Hannah.
bunch of sparklers, and she would get your sparklers, lit them all in her hand, and then started to give them out.
You know
and
what?
then by the time we got to walk down the aisle, they'd all got out.
Fireworks safety was ingrained to me from like 5 years old, so the early 80s, it was very paramount on TV.
So if you're doing things like that,
early 90s,
simple things are work out the most streamlined way of getting that operation done, but also making sure that there's buckets and water and all that kind of stuff available on site well before the evening part starts. Get that set up the day before as well, so you can just bring that out at that point. And I think the key is there. Forward plan for the next part of the day. It's going to overrun, it will, but roll with it and enjoy every last second. And if worst case situation happens, you run out of time to do one of those little elements, it's okay, because you're obviously having so much fun already, you've forgotten to do that part and it's not affecting you. So if you forget to do sparklers, is it the end of the world?
No. Yeah. Nothing's in the world, because don't forget, your guests won't know that you've forgotten to do it.
Your guests, and we say this week on weekend as well, is your guests are not going to know what streamers you have and
what
confetti
table plan
and what your table plan look like. All of that, your details in your head will be there, but no one will know. They'll be completely none the wiser, because it's only in your head. So they'll have a great time regardless. And mainly, enjoy yourself, have fun, and enjoy yourself.
That's great. Emily's just come back. Sorry, just had a caterer call, so not sure what I missed. We've just been going through the running order, Emily. Funnily enough, we haven't answered your generator question yet. Right. I was saving that. On a side note, there was a big conversation in a suppliers networking group, not ours, another one this week, about alcohol. Bringing your own alcohol and bar companies.
Good one.
So we might save that, and we might have to get someone with a license to come on and discuss that, because I don't think we know enough.
Well, I know a little bit.
So we might talk about that, because even when I was reading this conversation, it was quite a long conversation.
In a nutshell, we will elaborate.
Yeah, and then I'll answer Emily's question. Sorry, Emily, we're not holding you out.
A catering company who does a bar in the evenings, and they were getting quite antsy about the fact that more and more often they're putting a paid bar on, and there are guests there with alcohol under the table and not paying.
Keeping the table wine.
Depending on what your bar situation is and where you are and what you're doing. Some bars might stipulate that you have to take all the table wine off for the evening service to begin, and that's not because they're being tight or stingy. That's to do with temporary event licenses, and if they are not in control of the consumption of alcohol on the premises, and obviously it's their premises whilst they're have that event license, they could be stung with a massive fine on the off chance that someone came past and reported. So it was just an interesting point about what you're doing about alcohol.
Let's try and cover alcohol next week.
We might actually find Josh is good.
Oh yeah, do you know what? I was trying to think who are most well-known bar companies.
We have a bar company here called NJAC, and Josh is really knowledgeable about things like that and what to do with temporary event licenses and bar companies coming on site.
Let me answer. Emily, generator is an issue for us. What's reasonable amount of fuel? Right, it's a difficult question. It really depends. If you're going to have a ceremony at 1 o'clock and your caterers arrive about midday at your venue with the generator, and then you guys arrive, a few hours later on, and at 11 o'clock you switch it all off because you've got to, then the fuel in the generator will be enough. Right. If you're going to have a festival extravaganza that starts on Friday and you're going to keep freezers and fridges, keeping your beer cool all weekend, and you're going to want to charge mobile phones all weekend, and you're going to have lights in the tent on Friday night, on Saturday night, and then on Sunday morning you're going to do that. Breakfast. Look, I know it costs money, trust me, it will be easier. Get the backup fuel tank, right? It will just be worth it, because the generator company are only going to charge you what fuel you use. Okay, well, they should do, most do. So they're only going to charge you for what fuel you use and the running time of the generator. If you're going to be somewhere in the middle of amongst all that, because they are extremes, and in my experience, what I'm about to tell you now is what we used to do as a marquee company, and I only know one wedding that massively went over what we provided. We used to provide a generator, unless they asked for something different. We used to provide a generator and 2 jerry cans, like standard, like army jerry cans, if you know what I'm talking about. You buy them in Halfords for like 20 quid. And we'd fill them both up. I think they're 20 litres. There might be... No, they've got to be more than 20, whatever size they are. And we would fill those 2 up and provide them with a generator, and that was their package they bought off of us. And literally only a handful, well, one, but I can remember, went over that, and they had to send someone out to go and fill up the jerry cans and top it back up.
What fuel was it?
It's just diesel, so you can go to your local petrol station, you get diesel. You know, if you like have, is it red diesel and blue diesel? I've actually forgotten. It's literally, the red and blue is just to do with taxation. It's ultimately the same fuel. So you can just go to Tesco's, fill up with diesel and pour it in your generator. Just double check, because I'm sure some generator, there will be something different out there. So just double check.
Don't blame us on your assurance.
Alan
said it
and
was
Emily
okay
said,
to do that.
but pretty confident that's right. So if you're planning an extravaganza, pay for the backup fuel tank. If you're gonna, you're looking at something from Saturday lunchtime with a bit of Sunday morning, just go for the extra jerry cans. It's worth bearing in mind, like, if you've got LED everything, LED doesn't draw much.
No.
So once again, you're not going to need as much. So you got to weigh this up. But like I say, most weddings we did that were sort of mid-afternoon to 11 o'clock, lights out, nothing on Sunday, just used the fuel in the generator. Emily, I hope that helps. I did see a thumbs up coming up, so I presume that's you. If your issue is slightly more specific and haven't covered it, just drop me a message or put it in the group, and we can have we're more than happy to discuss power.
Power's always a big one, and no one talks about it enough, and it's one of those integral parts of your day. If you haven't got power, you haven't got an event.
You haven't got an event. And your tent company will go, do you want a generator?
Yeah.
When actually the question's bigger than that, because you've got to think about distribution. You've got to think about, do you need a plug socket for your band? We were talking about bands or your DJ earlier on. And most tent companies will know that. So, hopefully you've got enough information to have those conversations.
We've talked about size generators as well in the past as well. It very much depends on what you're going to be drawing from and what things you're going to be using. So 9 times out of 10, it will be running lights for your tent. It will be a catering tent.
Good.
Caterers are the biggest draw, because they have things like urns and burners and all of that stuff they bring in, and they all have different draws.
Yeah, if your caterer's bringing in food cooked and warming it up, once again you need less power.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're going to cook on site,
then they're going to have everything in a full kitchen they're bringing along. And that's
or if you've got a hog roast, then it's no power.
Yeah.
So it really.
Bands, how big is your band? If there's a live band playing, and lighting really, isn't it?
They're the main things. The biggest draws will be the band and the caterer. But then if you're adding on bouncy castles and everything else, I would say if you're having a festival extravaganza, go for a bigger generator like a 40 kVA. Pay the money; it will be worth it. I know we're all on budgets. But it will just be worth it for peace of mind. If you're not having a festival 3-day extravaganza, then we normally suggest is it 23, 24 kVA. I think it's 23, it could be 24, but it's around that. And normally, in my experience, the distribution board, like in your house with the switches, it's the same sort of thing. That will go into that. In theory, that will go before the generator goes. But if you think about a 1 litre Ford Fiesta, I'm old school, compared to like a 3 litre V6 thing, it can do the same job, just one's going to rev a bit higher, etc., and one's got a bit more low down power. So that's what I'm saying. If you're doing an extravaganza, you're going to want the big cruiser. If you're just going to have like midday to midnight, then the little Ford Fiesta type thing's fine. Hope that helps.
Right, any other questions while we're here?
No other questions. That was a great one. I think Emily's just posted again. We just have 12 hours fuel. That's all I know. So if your wedding's only 12 hours, then that's fine. If it's more than that, ask for a couple of jerry cans. I'd like to think they'd provide that for you.
And don't forget, on a summer wedding, again, depending on your timings and what you're doing, you may not even have to switch that generator on until earlier in the afternoon, because you're not going to need to use your lights.
Well, it depends on fridges and freezers. This is the problem. It's keeping beer cold.
Fridges, freezers, toilet blocks that might need power.
Yes, absolutely. And if you've got campers, then your toilet block might be on late.
Yeah, so think about those things that need to be. If you've got a campsite that has a toilet block and you don't need refrigeration, it doesn't need to go on straight away. So just think about what's going to be drawing at what time, and then adjust it accordingly. 12
hours doesn't mean 12 hours. It'll be 12 hours based on a certain load. So I know it really does, and even though we're saying all this, it really doesn't answer the question, because Emily's still probably sitting there going, I don't know. So really, just if you're going to plug loads of stuff in and you've got a 20-piece band coming in, then you're going to want a bit more fuel, right? If you've got a DJ coming in, and like we know DJs who have battery-powered rechargeable lights they put round the marquee, and so it's really only their decks and some LED lights here, so they don't need a lot. What are you having for food? If you're having a hog roast, then you don't need a lot of fuel. If you're not sure, ask the provider of your generator. Make a list of everything you're plugging into it, from mobile phone charging to hot water to bouncy castles. And
caterers will know what their draw is and everything, because they have to. It's part and parcel of what they do when they're bringing mobile.
Yeah, most bands go like, we need one 13 amp plug. Most caterers will go, I need 6 13 amp plugs and things like that. So ask them what they need, and then go to the provider of your generator and go, look, that's it, and clarify that you're paying for fuel you use over and above what's in the generator. Hope that helps.
Hope so. Oh, my phone's going mental today. Sorry.
Right.
I think that's it.
That is it. It's a long one tonight, actually.
Hope it's been helpful for you and some food for thought. It may, I can say, a lot of it may or may not apply to what you're doing and what your day is doing, depending on the style you're going for. But hopefully you can pick out a few key pieces that you may or may not have thought about beforehand, or you can just run through. Again, as Alan said, if there's anything specific that you're not sure on,
yes, I said the other half it wasn't 12. Yeah, it's not like that. It can't. Think of it like a car. You can't have 12 hours of petrol in a car.
Yeah.
You can't. It doesn't work like that. Depends if you're going to drive everywhere in first gear or drive everywhere at 56 in top gear. Then it's going to go further.
If there's anything specific that you've thought about from listening to this today, and you are now going, please do put it in the group. And we are on pretty much daily, aren't we? Or one of us is on daily, and we are happy to start talking things through with you. Or if you want to have a proper, we offer a 1 hour power hour session, which is £99. But if anyone does want to talk through aspects of their day where they want to speak to a planner and event manager, and you really want to get through the nitty-gritty of it, do feel free to book in one of those sessions as well. We're always here to help if you want to.
I might share our courses in, because if people don't know what we can do. Yeah. All right. Anyway, people are going now because we're saying goodbye. Question for anyone left watching. We're obviously outside again tonight. Is the weather going to turn before the sun sets too early? So what's it? Weather going to beat us back indoors, or is the sunset going to beat us back indoors? Hopefully it's the sunset. Right.
Anyone who's getting married this week, congratulations in advance, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.